Welcome to the Whole Pro Podcast, presented by the Tennessee Section PGA. I am Jim Vernon, former president of the Tennessee PGA. My normal partner in crime, Virgil Herring, is out today, but we have a special surprise. We have our first guest on the podcast this week. He is a good friend. We worked together for many years. He is currently the director of golf at Hermitage Golf Course here in Nashville, but probably best known for his, I'd say, semi-celebrity status now, and Instagram and TikTok fame as Golf Shop. This is Chris. So welcome to the Whole Pro, Chris Pierce.
Jim, thanks for having me. Infamous, maybe. I don't know if there's any celebrity status or fame there. If there is, it doesn't come with money like people talk about.
We might talk about that a little bit too. But I have to be careful here to, first of all, I should say that we tried to do this once before, and all of our folks that are listening in the business, we got a call the day before he was supposed to be on, and he's like, Jim, I can't come now. We've just added 150 people to the tee sheet in the last 24 hours. We're going to have to postpone, which I know everybody that's in the business can appreciate that. But I want to, and I'm going to do my best, dude, to not, for this not to get into like old home week for us, because we could start being like, you remember that time.
I thought it might, to be honest with you.
And if it does, we'll trust. I'll get somebody to wave at me here, Chase, who helps us to not make sure we don't go too far over. But I would kind of like to start, well, I'll start with the bell first. Everybody that listens to the show, you know about the bell. The bell can be rung at any time, at any appropriate time. I want to talk a little bit about Golf Shop. This is Chris. I know this story, but for our listeners that don't, the kind of the genesis, how that came about as a marketing thing, and then also you have also created your own kind of persona from that, and so just kind of take us through that a little bit.
Yeah. So. For your audience, right, that may not know, Hermitage Golf Course family owned. And the daughter's the president, the daughter-in-law, director of marketing, son-in-law is the GM, the owner, Mike Eller. We were sitting in Ashley's office on a rainy day telling a bunch of stories about former customers and this, that, and the other. And they said, well, let's just act like you're answering the phone. And 100% truth, I fought against it. I was like, guys, we're hardcore making fun of people. Like, we're going down a hole that I'm not so sure how this is going to go. Courtney Eller, who's the director of marketing, said, here's what we'll do. We'll do one. If you don't like it and it does well, or if it falls flat, we'll say no harm, no foul. We tried something, and that's it. And the rest is kind of how it evolved. And so after one, I enjoyed it. It seemed like the customer, because that was the hardest thing, right? I didn't want, it's already hard enough, people who are in the golf business, to handle the customer as it is and to make sure you're doing the right thing. I didn't want to add anything that could make somebody want to reach out to Hermitage Golf Course and say, hey, who is this guy?
What are you doing?
What are you doing?
Yeah.
And so after the first two or three, it just spread like nothing I ever thought possible.
You and I talked about this a little bit before when you all first started doing it, but that there was a little, for me, for our listeners that don't know, I was at Hermitage for 26 years as well. So Chris and I worked together a bunch, and we did this all the time. Particularly with downtime and when we would just fake being on the phone and say the stuff that we were really. So I had this small little twinge of jealousy that was like, damn it, why didn't I think of that? Oh, they're doing it, but what a great marketing piece. Now you touched on that a little bit. There was a little piece of you that was like, is this cool to do? There was a story you told me about a guy that called in. He was a former PGA guy or whatever. Tell me that.
No, and Jim, I would say more than just a little tinge of is this right? No, I've the videos have led me to do some really cool stuff and to meet some cool people. And so I love to write. I love to try to be funny. I didn't know if people would take it as this is entertainment. They're just trying to be funny. It's a way to try to get their name out. That I worried about people like yourself and people like Mr. Eller who have been golf professionals and in the business for 25, 30, 35 years, that they would call me and be like, hey, who do you think you are and what are you doing? And I had a guy call me from California. We're probably 8 or 10 videos in. And he said, hey, son, I've watched every one of your videos. I've been in the golf business for over 30 years. And I thought, the time's come.
Here it comes.
The time has come. So I got really comfortable. I thought, he's just absolutely about to read me the riot act. And he said, hey, son, I've watched every one of your videos. And I just want to let you know something. I've been in the golf business for over 30 years. I've been a PGA golf professional for 27. You're saying all the stuff I wish I could say.
So true.
And I said, really? And he goes, oh, you have no idea. And I said, well, I guess I'm a beacon of light. And he goes, well, I don't know if I'd call you that, but I think you're doing what you're doing. And he said something, and Mr. Eller said something, who I worked for, you worked for years. He was having lunch one day. And he called me over, and perfectly sunny day in the spring, and he said, hey, Chris, what do you think the odds that it rains just on 12 and nowhere else on the property? And I went, ooh, you've seen the videos. And he said, seen them, Chris. I absolutely love them. Mm-hmm. And keep doing what you're doing, keep doing how you're doing. And that was, for me, hearing from professionals and then from him kind of was the jumping start to say, okay, let's really take this serious.
Have you ever done one? Because I think I've seen all of it, but I don't know. You know how your algorithm works. But I think because I've watched some, I think I've seen most of them. But there's one that I'm thinking of. But is there one that you ever felt like maybe we pushed the envelope? What's one?
Yeah.
I want to hear what
the most recent one with the driver heads.
100%.
Yeah.
There you go. Hey, I had no problem with it. I just wondered if you got a little bit of that. Was
so
soft.
that's like that. Okay. We were joking around and we were having a conversation about different things, and somehow we couldn't figure out what that was, and so we were like 460 cc, and an employee was like, "I'll tell you what that is," and I was like, "Wait a minute." And so it's one of those things, and I think a lot of people would understand this, that when you write something and you say it to your friends and you're like, that's funny. Like, that's really funny. And then when we filmed it, I was like, that's fantastic. And then when we posted it, I thought, what have we done?
Yeah.
What have we done?
Yeah, we have crossed the line.
We've crossed the line.
I don't think you did, but I mean.
And I try to keep, like on my own page and at Hermitage, I try to keep it really clean, because if a kid's watching it, if an adult's watching, I want anybody to be able to come watch it and not have to shy away from it.
Right.
And that was one that we've done that I was like, dear God, what have we done? What have we done?
So let's move from, and we're not moving far, obviously, because from what a great marketing idea for Hermitage to do, and I love that happened. But also, like I say, when your personality, the character, if we'll call it, Golf Shop This Is Chris, kind of took on a life of its own as well. And you have a massive following there too for something you haven't been doing a terribly long time. Did like the one I just saw that looked like it was the other day, and these are the ones that seem to get most of your likes and views, are not necessarily golf related, because I want to talk about some of the other stuff that you're doing, and the baseball coach sitting with throwing up the ball, because we've all been there and seen that guy and felt that guy and that whole vibe that I just want to go, what? So is that just something that you always wanted to because you talked about writing, and I want to ask you more about that.
And so I've always wanted to try to make people laugh, you and I both, right?
100%.
I mean, when we worked, I worked for you for 5 years, and I always felt like Hermitage was the type of place, and I still do, and I hope we're still this way, that it kind of lends people to, that's the customer service and experience we want people to have, right? Is you're almost on for 8 hours, if you will. Yeah. And so I've got a really good friend of mine. My kids are super young, as you know, and they're just now starting to get in athletics. But I watched a buddy of mine who coached travel ball for his kid from when his kid was about 8 to now high school ball, and he always did it right. But I got to see some people who didn't do it right. Yeah. And it took me back to playing every sport as a kid. And I was like, I think I can make fun of that. I can make fun of that. And again, it was one of those things that I thought it would be such a niche audience. And the amount of people who have written me that said, man, I've never played a sport. But that is wild that people are talking to people. Oh, really? Like that.
So it's people that never even played a sport that are
That's been the wild thing about both of them.
That surprised me a little bit.
It's been the wild thing about at the golf course, the people who have come in, Jim, and said, I've never played golf, I'll never play golf, I've never picked a club up. But I just had to come see the place because I think it's hilarious. And I'll honestly ask, you don't get the joke. How is this funny to you?
How is it funny to you?
How is this funny to you? And they said, people are just pumped that a company was willing to put their name on something like that.
Yeah.
And then from my own page, the writing and the baseball and the basketball coach and the football coach, I mean, I was fortunate. I played for some really good guys, and I've worked for some really good guys. But they did some of that in real time.
Oh, I have no doubt. Yeah, some of that you can feel is,
that happened.
That really happened.
So it's wild now that people come into Hermitage and say, hey, I had a guy call me, this was last week, and he said, hey, I'm Jimmy's older brother, and we're not going to be able to make that AU tournament in Mexico. And I said, well, you just go ahead and turn your jersey in.
Yeah, I know.
And so he called, and then he booked a tee time, and he said, hey, man, we're coming just because we saw you on Instagram. And I said, I'm just blown away. Jim, I'm blown away by that.
It's so good. I love it so much. You mentioned writing there a little bit, and so I know you write, if not all of it, but most of that stuff. But writing in other things, everybody that knows you and follows you saw that you did an actual real stand-up set here at Zanies. Tell us how that came about.
Yes.
And then all this started from Golf Shop This Is Chris, right?
All of it.
Yeah.
All of it. And so Jeff Allen, who's a awesome stand-up comedian, he's been doing it for years, had me on his podcast. And
because he'd seen the videos?
So Caroline Xavier, who was is his co-host, had seen the videos. Jeff is a huge golfer.
Okay, I didn't know that.
Plays in a lot of section events. I don't know if he still does, but he used to play in a lot of section events. And so she reached out and said, Jeff it'd be an awesome guest. I loved going on there. He talked golf. I wanted to talk comedy. And
that sounds about right.
Right. And so he said, hey, in the middle of the podcast, just like we're sitting here, totally didn't know it was coming. He said, we've been talking about this, but we're doing a project at a golf tournament. We're doing comedy the night before. My friend here, Golf Shop Chris, is going to do 5 minutes. And I thought, oh, yeah. Like, you think you have 5 minutes.
Did he pretty much say you're going to,
He said if he wants to do it.
Okay.
And he said, do you want to do it? And I was like, yeah, I want to do it.
Were you immediately yes
I said,
on it?
absolutely.
Okay.
I said,
Were you scared out of your damn
100%
mind?
from right there.
Oh, had to be.
I don't think I slept for 2.5 weeks
Yeah.
prior to the set. And so when we got done, he was like, you got a 5-minute set? And I didn't want to, I want to sound like I knew what I was doing. I was like,
Yeah,
they don't have
sure.
a 5-minute set, Jeff. And he's like, that's good. I need you to do 10. And I was like, 10?
No.
Might as well film a special at
Yeah,
this
I know.
point.
That's
And he
dead
said,
talk.
he was totally cool. He said, hey, man, if you get on stage and you freak out or you don't like it, just pull the ripcord, do the finisher, and be done. He said, but if you're liking it, go the whole way. I just want to see you do comedy.
Yeah, I like that.
He said it's a safe
yeah.
environment. You're with a bunch of people who basically will carry the show if you bomb, which I was fully intending to bomb.
Well, you got to be prepared for it, right? I mean,
had a blast.
But you did not, obviously.
Had a blast.
Oh, that
And
was
everybody there that night, I was with Stephen Bargatze, I was with Jeff Jenna, Caroline Xavier, John Deloney, all these people who are so good at it.
Yeah.
They were all like, we've all bombed before. And I was like, is that what you tell a comic before they're about to go on stage?
Don't worry if you suck, man.
And so the best part was a guy named Jeff Jenna standing there right before I go on. And he thought, like, this is his first time to do Zanies. And I was like, no, it's a little bit deeper than that. It's kind of my first time to ever do anything. And he goes, hold on, wait a minute. So you're doing a 3 o'clock show on a Sunday in front of a lot of people who know you at Zanies as your first time. And I said, yes, sir. He goes, whew. This is about to be a train wreck for you, dude. And so it was kind of calming and refreshing to hear that. So.
I found when I speak in front of folks that sometimes it's harder when I'm doing it in front of more people that I know.
I agree.
If I crush it, that's great. I feel more pressure to crush it.
Yeah.
Or if I bomb it, I don't know any of those people anyway, right?
Yeah.
So you feel a little extra obligation.
My wife asked me, Caitlin asked me before I did it, she said, are you afraid of bombing? And I said, well, I think anybody's always afraid of bombing. I said, the hard part is yes and no. I'm not afraid of bombing in front of random people. I said, because if you've ever gone to a professional golf tournament thinking you're a professional, shoot 90, have to post that score, and see just the life get sucked out of your playing partners because they know you have to come back tomorrow and do it again. If I bomb in front of people I don't know, I'll never see those people again.
Yeah. Yeah, that was probably a little bit of a calming way to think
I thought
about it.
so.
What about anything? I mean, like I said, this, it's funny how viral things work, obviously online and algorithms and all of how it works. I mean, I've seen how fast your following grows, and the more it grows, usually the faster it grows too. Mm-hmm. Have you thought about what else you might want to do? Would you do stand up again? Is there a way? I mean, I'm not going to get too deep into your stuff here. People are monetizing that stuff out there. Are you? And then we're going to talk about this also in a second, because you also have a real job that is, right. I know what that job is,
right.
So I know how much that is. So, but surely that's had to be, knowing you thought about,
I have.
What can I do with this exactly?
I have. And the monetizing, I tell people all the time, right? Because I have a lot of people do ask that because they see people who run off on social media and, well, I knew that person or that lady before, and then they left their job and now they're doing this full time. And for me, and what I'm doing, it would be doing more stand up. It would be trying to act, right? Because I'm writing a script and a copy and I'm acting it out. I'm not like some of the golf influencers, nothing against them, hitting shots and traveling around and doing all of that. I don't want to monetize. I don't want my page to turn into the yellow pages.
Okay.
I want Jim Vernon. I want your audience to come to Golf Shop Chris and laugh.
Right.
I don't want them to show up to Golf Shop Chris and be like, well, it's the yellow pages. He's selling something again.
Yeah.
Right. So I absolutely would do stand up more. Absolutely, if it was right, I probably would seriously think about it. It'd have to be, really good. I was telling a buddy of mine that, Zany's open mics at 8:45 on a Wednesday night. If I go down there and do an open mic and I leave at 10 or 10:30, you know this better than anybody, that Thursday I may have to be back at Hermitage Golf Course at 5 a.m.
Have you and
so there's a balancing act there.
You and Kaylin had those kind of conversations about if you did pursue that? I mean, how does that? She said, "Wait a minute, I'm not sure. Didn't sign up to marry a, comedian."
My wife.
Those hours are drastically
That's right.
different.
My wife is an absolute rock star, and I love to tell this story. So when these kind of started to pop off, I said, "I think I'm going to try to do some stand up." And she said, "Hey, I didn't marry a comedian." And I said, "Are you saying I'm not funny?" And she said, "Well, I didn't really want to say it that way, but yeah." And so she said, "No, I didn't want somebody to go on the road and come back and go on the road and come back." I said, "Well, here's what like comics are making that you don't see on television." And she was like, "Well, we can homeschool the kids and travel with you." And so, but no, those conversations have been had, and it's far down the road. But I mean, it's with my wife, and I tell people this all the time, and I think a lot of us are probably like this. My wife is such a rock star that I'm just riding her coattails and staying out of the way and trying not to make her mad.
That's a great segue for us here, because one of the things that Virgil and I talked about when we wanted to do this podcast was that we wanted a place that we could candidly talk about stuff, not only just in the business, but business and life, and how those things intersect, and how you do both of those things at the same time. Yeah. Like I say, I mean, I know what that job is. You work at one of the busiest places in the Southeast, man. Okay, you have 3 young children. Yeah. Okay, and your wife works. So you have. And now you have all this side stuff. This Golf Shop as Chris is blown up. Now you want to do some stand-up. All wonderful things, and I get tired thinking about it now, but I'm glad you're younger than me and can do. But this is a really general question, but we ask most people when we're talking about these in conversations over a beer somewhere. And that's kind of what Virgil and I wanted to do. Could we talk about stuff that we would talk about over beers that we're afraid to say elsewhere because people are going, ooh, you shouldn't say that in front of everybody else about the golf business. Right. You've been doing it. Do you how do you do it? Is it a plan, or are you just trying to keep your head above water right now?
Well, I think it's easier now. And that's funny that we're going to talk about this and talking about home life and how you do it. And I mean this not just on y'all's podcast, and I've said this to Ashley, and I've said this to Mike, and for the audience who don't know that, Mike Yeller owns Hermitage Golf Course. Ashley is the president, and you've you stated this, but I'm going to restate this. I worked for you for 5 years. One of the best golf professionals to come through the section in Jim Vernon,
well, thank you.
And former president of the section. And I can remember sitting in that office and saying, "Hey, this place won't go bad on my watch." And I said that to Ashley, and I said that to Mike. And for a long time, I probably got close to ruining a lot of stuff outside of Hermitage Golf Course and my marriage and stuff like that.
Because you were so focused on...
Because I was so focused on trying to get that right. Yep. And I was so focused on... I didn't want... And I think this is a compliment. I mean this as a compliment for everybody involved, but for you, I didn't want people to say, well, Hermitage Golf Course couldn't do it without Jim Vernon. And I don't mean that in any slight.
And if they did, I would have felt like I failed as a leader by not creating a culture and showing people how to do it that somebody else couldn't do it.
Right.
All that would have meant is that I did a bad job in I might have been good in certain areas, but it means that I didn't do what I was supposed to do as a leader.
And that was the thing is when myself and Ashley took over, and then when Ashley was like, "Hey, I'm here if you need me. Let me know what you need." I didn't want to fail you, and I didn't want to fail the Ellers, right? And I told a lot of people this. I didn't want to fail somebody who his life's work in the golf business was Hermitage Golf Course. And I didn't want to fail people who I thought of as family, and Ashley and Mike on this is their family business. Yeah. And a lot of the other stuff suffered. That was my own personal doing. That's gotten way better.
Good.
Kids helped that. and having the staff we do now at Hermitage.
Yeah, that's a huge
Jim,
one,
when
right?
I told them I was leaving today, they were like, thank God. It's easier with him not around because we're in the same boat on. We're going to say yes to something we probably don't need to say yes to.
Right.
We're doing this, we're doing that. And so I jokingly tell people, your line, and I love to do it. I mop the floor, stay out of the way, and they'll come get me and say, hey, Chris, that guy's really mad. You need to go talk to him. And I think I learned that from you. I learned that from Mike. But being able to put it all together is because my wife is so good. So good. That's how that all fits together.
I remember having a conversation, and this was obviously 30 plus years ago a little bit, when I first thought I was going to get in the business, and we've referenced Mike a lot in this, and I had a conversation about having a job with him, and he came back and said, all right, I think I want to do this. And he said, all right, great, really glad. He said, now, my wife's name is Beth, as you know, and I said, he said, is Beth on board?
Yeah.
And I said, yeah, she's on board. I said it just like that. And he goes, no. Is she really on board? I said, well, yeah, what do you mean is she on board? She's very supportive about anything that I want to do. He said, this is not exactly like other jobs, okay? I want you to be prepared for what this really looks like and how immersed you have to get into stuff, just from a time standpoint, all the things that we all know from being in that business. He said, so I want you to go home and have a more serious conversation with her, because it's a lot, okay? And one of the things, and it's a reason that I was there for so long that I appreciated about that, is because I believe, and it's one of the things we've talked about, okay, well, how can, we talk about a bunch of issues and problems and how do we do it. What do we do to make it better is, first of all, there is a very family feel there, and they made me feel like that, which was great.
100%.
But that atmosphere was that I'm not going to be able to do this, and I learned that very very early on. I mean, if I can't include my family somehow, and only one of my kids, my two daughters, worked there, but I don't necessarily mean that. But it was that they were part of the place,
100%.
right? I mean, you remember my dog Owen. Owen came to work with me, slept under my desk every day. Owen and I went out and shook hands and kissed babies on the course. They would much rather see Owen do it than they did me.
100%.
But I mean, I would say, the kid, hey, I'm going to be late. There's food left over from the tournament tonight. You guys come on up if you can wait till 8. And we would do that. Now, some of that, it's how you got to figure that out, because I think if you don't, then you get so separated from it that you're so hyper focused on, I'm not going to let anything fail here, that then it easily falls through the cracks.
No, and I think it's 100% right. And my kids now run around the place, and Caitlin runs around the place, and Ashley's daughter, she'll watch the kids, and
Awesome.
and so it is. And we still have that, right? We still have that family type feel, and it's a really special place, right? And I think it's made special by the people who have come before me, and hopefully when my time's done, it's special because of what we've done.
I remember whenever you, this sounds like I'm patting myself on the back, but whenever you follow a good situation, all right, I hope that I did what I hope that I did there, which
I've changed everything you've ever done, but yeah, no, go ahead. No, that's a lie.
I did it well, but I think everybody has that feeling of that I don't want to screw this up.
That's right.
I can remember here in the Tennessee section, Dick Horton is known all over the state as probably like the grandfather of golf in Tennessee. Well, he was the executive director over all the governing bodies of golf. And when he left, people were like, oh my gosh, and so we went through this process. I was more involved in the section at the time, and we hired a guy named Jeff Abbott. And I remember part of Jeff talking to him about that, because people would say, dude, how are you going to follow somebody like Dick? And he said, and he of course said all the right things about what he thought of Dick and how he needed Dick and would need. He said sometimes if you got something really good, you want to put your own touch on it. You want to do your own things. He said, but the way that I always thought of it, and this is what I tried to do when Mike kind of, let me start doing things, was that it's more about, I have my own style and the way I'm going to do it, but I'm really just polishing the stone more, right? This stone is really good and really solid, okay? But there's things that I might want to do, but I'm just going to polish it. I don't need to break it and start all over, right?
100%. And I think, Jim, if people were yourself, or people maybe who've played 20, 25 years with Hermitage Golf Course, who maybe knew Mike when he was the director or whatever the case may be, and then he hands it off to you, and now myself, I think you would see fingerprints of all of us there.
Absolutely.
And for me, I'm not so sure I've changed anything of the business, maybe here and there, but mostly it's been internal stuff with the employees and the scheduling, because it is an ever-changing climate with the employee.
Right.
And
Absolutely.
how do we make it better for the employee? Yeah. That's probably been the biggest thing that I've tried to change.
What about, and I know we could go for forever there, but when we talk about things being hard, you're what, 12 years into the business now? 14 years into? Okay, 14 years into the business now. That's already a good chunk, right? I don't want to make this assumption, but there's a time usually once you got kids and once they start really, once you turn into what you're getting close right now, that you're basically a chauffeur to get them to all the things are between you and Caitlin, because she won't be able. You can't pay man to man anymore, right? No. Y'all got to go zone now, right?
That's right.
So how do I do all those things? Did you have or have you had any of those thoughts? That because there was a period there that, and I wouldn't even say it was all the way at the end of my time,
sure, but
that I would go, is this what I'm really going to keep doing?
Right.
I mean, it's always going to be the same number of hours. It's daylight to dark at every time of the year. I'm always going to get the phone call when the alarm goes off at 2:30. All the things that I would start to. So I literally did that whole Ben Franklin thing. It was usually August,
sure,
right, every year, and then ultimately, the pro side with the con would say, yeah.
I think that's anything you do for a while. And yes,
probably
I've had
so,
that.
but I don't have a lot to compare it to.
Right? No, I've had that, right? And it's probably about August, September when you've gone through the spring rush, and now you're about to start the fall rush, and you're starting to think, I'll probably just live off the land and be okay. But I think, and I don't know, I wouldn't speak for you, but I think it's probably the same as the feel of the place and what you're doing, and I get a lot out of, people ask all the time, do you play? I don't really probably play but 5 or 6 rounds, and I get more out of seeing people entertained by what we're doing at Hermitage than I ever got from playing. I was a terrible player, but that probably weighed more, right? And seeing my kids when they show up running around and having a good time, and so it always.
You weren't
falls
a terrible player, okay? When I first met you, when you first started, you were thinking I might want to try to play golf, right?
I did for a little bit. So you were a good enough player to at least consider that, all right? And now I know what that place is like, and Virgil and I had a podcast earlier where we talked about how important playing is, and for the longest time that I was there, I put no importance on at least myself at all. And in fact, if you came to me and you said, I really want to play the tour, but I can't quite make it, and I love to play, so I guess I'm just going to fall back and get in the golf business, which I think a lot of people do, then I would go, I'm not sure that this is the guy that I want, because I know what I need from him here. And if playing is that big a priority, then I'm not sure he's the right fit for us. But I have changed a little bit on at least the importance of playing golf. It's why we freaking got in this business in the first place, for the most part, because this is a game that we love. Not me. Y'all didn't know this. I put in 5 applications before Hermitage and got told no on all of them. And so when y'all offered me the job, I was like, I'm in, baby.
That's the only one.
And falling in love with you and the Yellers and the place is what kept me in the golf business.
You were trying to get that Chipotle thing before us, right?
Couldn't do it.
Yeah, couldn't do it.
Couldn't do it. I couldn't memorize the menu. And then I went to I don't know. Anyways, so no, I didn't know anything. I mean, you know this. I didn't know anything about golf. And I still thank you and the Yellers. I mean, y'all took a chance on somebody who, literally, I can't emphasize enough to your audience, Steve Murphy, who was the head golf professional at the time, wanted me to start club fitting with Titleist. And he said, it'd be a good way for you to meet professionals, it'd be a good way for you to meet people. And I can honestly remember thinking, the guy was like, I want to hit the ball lower. And I thought, okay, well, that shaft's green, the grass is green, so that must mean we're going to hit it lower. And he skied it. And I was like, I got the wrong shaft. That's, I can remember the first demo day I did, I stake the tent down, it blew down the fairway. I was like, I'm fired.
Hey guys, first day of the job. I'll get it. Can you all quit hitting for a second? Let me get that.
I can remember Scott Masters. I was at Foxland, and he was like, "Is that your tent?" And I was like, "Yeah, unfortunately, that's my tent." And then Dave Maness would always come out every fitting and be like, "Where's the tent?" I'd be like, "It's broke." No, I just didn't know what I was doing, and so. But I've had a blast doing it. I've had an absolute blast the last 14 years doing it.
one of the things, again, we touched on this in a previous episode, and we talked about wanting to have somebody on that could touch on this piece of it a little bit here too. Is I try very hard to still stay very connected to golf and still active in the association, but obviously I'm not actively at a facility anymore. Not answering that phone, not behind the counter anymore. So I wonder. Here's the way I've heard people say it to me. Hey, Jim, you guys are doing a great job on there, but since neither one of y'all are really in the shop anymore and doing any of that stuff, man, golf is different now, okay? And particularly since COVID, I think, and some of the stuff, and most everybody is doing well that I know of, most everybody. And Hermitage has always been an outlier anyway. Sure. Even when golf was not good, we still comparatively were very successful, not like now, but it's always been, a little bit more. So tell me, I know, when I was there was probably a third of our play was from out of town. You told me it's even higher now,
probably. It's probably mid-40s.
That's crazy.
Yeah, it's probably mid-40s.
So talk a little bit about what that it's different means to you and what you got to do now.
I think the golf business, and this is a smaller sample size on people who could be watching this who have done it for a long time, but I think the golf business and the game itself has changed in the fact of people who are playing. I can remember back in the day, it never seemed like we got questioned, can we play 5? Now, since COVID, it's brought in such a younger crowd who probably didn't grow up watching the game like myself, who we've probably today, the Friday that we're filming this, probably have 10 or 12 bachelor parties at Hermitage Golf Course today of 12 or more guys. And the wild part is we'll have people call and be like, hey, I just need one tee time. I've got 9 guys going out. And we're like, well, you can't play 9-some. And they're like, well, like at bowling,
why
you
not?
can do that. Why not?
I saw it on YouTube. They were all playing 9,
Why not? And so I think it's changed that way. I think the idea, we still have the people who want to come out and try to put up a number, but the majority of the people, and you're going to understand this because this is a saying you use, where's the beer, where's the first tee? That is literally what people are looking for. And they don't care about pace. And that's not that they're trying to intentionally slow the golf course down, but when they fly into Nashville and they're at Hermitage Golf Course at 11 o'clock, their next thing's not downtown till 7. So they're either going to drink with us or they're going to drink at the hotel. They couldn't care less how long that round of golf plays. I think that's another way that it's changed. If you remember 16, 17, right before you retired, we started to get a lot of influx on Thursday, and out of town would be Thursday, Friday, Saturday. Jim, it's at Hermitage Golf Course. I mean, our out of town plays every single day. It's every day. And I think that's changed.
And that's a Nashville thing too, but also a Hermitage thing as well. I had a guy, one of our local pros, Brad Shirley, he works at a municipal course north of town, and he's the first person that I heard the word different when he wanted to make sure that we understood that. And one of his things was that he didn't say everybody was combative, but when people are, it was like, I really don't care what you tell me. I paid my money and I'm going to do what I want. And if you try to push me too hard, fine. Even if you kick me off the golf course, I'm going to absolutely roast you in every possible rating, on every possible rating system everywhere. Yeah. And he had a situation where he said, he told me, they're driving around when it's really wet, just leaving mud tracks, big ruts everywhere. And he roasted me, afterward.
I had a guy a couple weeks ago, rental set goes out, he pulls the putter out, the grip is, it's atrocious. We should have never let the bag out. But I literally took it from him and said, hey, sir, give me a few seconds. I'll throw a new grip on there. We'll get you taken care of, or you can get a new rental bag. Whatever works best for you. I'm going to help you out, blah, blah, whole 9 yards. Handed it back. 2 days later, Yelp review. Can't believe they charged us the amount of money and the club would come out. And I said, hey, man, I helped that guy out.
Yeah.
We tried to do the right thing. But I bet if you had other people who came in and spoke, and I know it's a golf podcast, I bet that's not married just to golf. I think that's people in general right now.
What's next for you? Just keep on keeping on right now and kind of.
Yeah, I got to close the shop tonight. So
I'm surprised next. You didn't go answer the phone and go, dude, I got to leave. I got to
go. No, same thing, right? I'm going to still try to do some of the comedy, and it's led me to some really, really cool people who have been very, very gracious to me, and I'm doing some stuff with them and having an absolute blast. And I've kind of told my wife, if something comes of it, fantastic. If not, I'm in a great spot
Yeah.
with a bunch of great people. My wife's great. My kids are great. It's going to be fine.
Well, I hope I don't sound old and crusty and condescending, but I'm proud of you, dude.
Thank you, sir.
All right,
Thanks so
absolutely.
much, man.
Thanks so much to Chris Pierce for being with us today. Okay, I've done so many movie quotes at the end here, I've forgotten which ones I've done and which ones I haven't. So, forgive me. I've actually had to write them down now. So, I'm going to leave you with a movie quote before we go. All right, as we always do on the podcast. All right. Name the movie this quote is from. May the odds be ever in your favor. All right. Thank you so much for listening and watching today. Always, if you have questions or comments, you can email us at thewholepro@gmail.com. Virgil and I will be back next time. Great to see you all. Bye-bye.